Creative, funny, incredibly handsome. These words are the only words Caleb Vierkant uses to describe himself. Caleb has wanted to be a writer since he was young. He's keeping his fingers crossed that his double major in journalism and history will help him pay the bills. His hobbies include blogging, playing video games, and buying books that he swears he'll get around to reading one day. His long-term goal is to become a multimillionaire from writing best-selling novels and selling the movie rights, and to die at far too young an age under an avalanche of fan mail. Please give a hand to Caleb.
Well, howdy everyone. My name's Caleb. Today I'll be reading a section of a horror story that I've been working on for the past few months. When I first signed up for this Black Box thing, I thought about trying to write a comedy or a funny story. Then I decided, nah, I've already done that, so I decided to go for disturbing, and apparently everyone else did too. Adela was 10 when it happened. The village had a large party annually to celebrate the coming new year and the beginning of spring. Snow and ice were still on the ground. Bonfires roared across the village. Music played, people were laughing, and everyone was in the streets enjoying life. Since I was a local winemaker, I probably had something to do with that. I had broken out the New Year's cask. It was a special barrel of wine that I make every year to give away at the celebration. It was a tradition that I'd started a long, long time ago for good luck. My daughter, Adela, enjoyed helping with this tradition. She loved to walk with me through the street, filling up people's cups, as we trudged along while I pushed the cask in a wheelbarrow. Of course, kids will be kids, and pretty soon she wanted to run off and play with her friends. I kissed her on the cheek and sent her on her way, gave her the usual warning of, don't get too close to the river. I walked on, pushing the New Year's cask through the town. It was a long journey since I got stopped every 4 or 5 steps. I was in a terrific mood. The atmosphere, good music, friends, possibly a little too much of my own wine. It had all gotten to me. I'd made my way to the old cobblestone bridge near the center of town. The village children had turned it into a war zone. Barricades made of snow lay scattered across the bridge. Snowballs were flying back and forth in volleys. High-pitched war cries mingled with laughter. Several adults had stopped to watch the battle. I couldn't help but laugh when I saw my daughter leading the troops on the far side of the bridge. Snowball determinedly clutched in one hand. She waved her hat on a stick like a banner, rallying her forces. She gave a yell, which was joined by the yells from all the other kids on her team, and she leapt over the bridge to charge. One of the cobblestones must have been loose, or covered in ice. I don't know. My laughter died in an instant, as I watched Adela slip and tumble off the side of the bridge, hat falling where she was standing only a second ago. The charge she was leading skidded to a halt, laughter changing to cries of horror. One of those cries was my own. I was sprinting to the bridge, throwing my coat off. I was only a step from jumping off before I was tackled. I don't remember clearly who it was. I screamed for him to get off of me, and I tried to push him away. He said that I would just freeze to death as well. Finally, I was able to get into a standing position, and I peered over the edge. The river had swelled in the past few months, and its icy black water was sweeping away in a fast current, taking Adela with it. Everybody reassured me that they would find her. Adela was a good swimmer. Probably just down the bend and needed something warm to drink. Don't worry, they would find her. Well, they found her 2 days later. I buried her out in the woods, near a spot I knew she loved to play in. It was a secret place that only she and I knew of. Out in the forest, near the vineyard, was a small clearing, almost a perfect circle of grass surrounded by tall pine trees. When she was very young, I would tell her stories of fairies creating this clearing so they could dance and perform magic. It was many a night that she would beg me to let her stay out and let her try to catch them. The shovel in my hand didn't feel real, and the mound of dirt that now marred this innocent perfection of the clearing, it seemed so small. A few friends had helped me roll a boulder into the clearing to act as a headstone, and one of them had chiseled Adela's name into the rock. I stood there for a long time, wondering if fairies would ever dance in this clearing again. That was a year ago, and I'd been plagued with nightmares ever since. At first it was just that one moment, Adela slipping and falling out of sight, replayed over and over. I would already be running to grab her, even before she started across the bridge. I was always an inch too far away or just a second too slow. Adela would slip from my grasp and plunge into the water. One night, I saw a strange shape standing on the riverbank as I tried and failed again to save her. A few nights later, I got a good look at this shape. Black smoke curled around the vague outline of a human. It was like it was the absence of a person, like someone had taken a pair of scissors to a sheet and cut out a paper doll. The smoky figure began speaking after a few nights. "Better luck next time," it would say, as I missed my daughter, or, "Oh, so close. Want to try again? Oh, you almost had her there. Oh, you just can't save her, can you?" Finally, one night, I snapped. "What are you doing?" I screamed. "Why do you just stand there?" It pointed behind me. Well, why do they? I looked over my shoulder. The entire village was there. The children, the adults, the stray cats and the pet dogs, they all just stood there, doing nothing, just watching my daughter fall to her death. Rage filled my gut. I screamed until my throat hurt. Why didn't anyone help? Why did it have to be my girl? You did nothing. The figure only laughed. I woke up in a cold sweat. Sleep didn't come back to me that night. It felt like that shadowy figure was still watching me. My waking hours had devolved into a nightmare, too. The harvest was really poor that summer. The vines simply refused to produce grapes. The ones that did grow were small and pretty sour. We'd barely grown enough to meet half our usual production. My employees weren't happy when I cut their wages. Well, they were paid for the work they did. If they wanted more, they would have to work harder. My dreams were no longer just about Adela. Now the villagers were deliberately stopping me from saving her. Sometimes one would trip me. Other times they would form a wall and sneer at me. Sometimes somebody would tackle me when I knew I could save her if I had just jumped. My hatred for them grew. The dreams kept changing, becoming more bizarre. The only constant was the dark figure. Why do you keep trying? It floated over my head as I stared down into the river below me. She's gone. She can't be. She just can't be. I didn't know what else to say. No matter what you do, you can't get her back. It lowered itself onto the bridge, sitting against the ledge beside me like it was having a pleasant conversation. I shook my head. No, there has to be something. There's got to be something. When I woke up, I realized I'd been sleepwalking. The woods were almost pitch black, save for the streaks of moonlight breaking through the trees. I'd wandered to Adela's grave in just my nightshirt. I looked around, half expecting to see a fairy, or something else. I looked back down at the headstone. Adela's name looked back up at me. There has to be something, I muttered. I turned to walk home, and I swore for a second that I saw the dark figure standing beside the grave. And thank you.